What makes Milan's cuisine so different from the rest of Italy? Because I'm pretty sure this just looks like a fried pizza pocket, and this is a risotto. But why is it gold? And what is aperitivo culture? And why am I holding some Play-Doh during dinner? Come with me to explore Milan's popular street snacks to the high-end dining that feels like art. You might have thought that Milan was all about fashion, but the food? That's what you should come for. First up is Panzerotti Luini, and this spot is close to Galleria Vittorio Emanuele, which makes it the perfect snack in between shopping. It is a tourist spot, but it's so popular that it has 2 lines out of the store, so that they can get through the customers faster. And once you get inside, there are mounds of Panzerotti, which was created by the poor in Puglia around the 16th century, and traditionally had tomato and cheese in it, made from leftover bread dough. Of course, now there's a lot of different flavors, including sweet Panzerotti as well, but I opted for the traditional tomato and cheese because a tomato in Italy is elite. I was really surprised by how the Panzerotti was so crispy on the outside, but soft and fluffy on the inside. At first, I was a bit disappointed because I thought there wasn't enough filling, but I realized soon enough that this was packed with tomato and cheese. In terms of taste, I would rate this a 4 out of 5 because it was so delicious and fresh. Value for money wise, I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well because it was snack and only around €3.50. And experience wise, I'd give it a 3 out of 5 because it is a takeaway shop, which meant I was walking around eating for a little bit. But I definitely recommend it if you're around the area and you want a quick bite to eat. Another spot you have to try in Galleria Vittorio Emanuele too is Marchesi 1824, a Milanese pastry shop founded by the Marchesi family 200 years ago. Now that is a lot of history. Nowadays, the Marchesi brand is owned by Prada and sits atop one of their flagship boutiques. And the storefront, just like everything else in this area, is gorgeously decorated. When you get upstairs, there's a beautiful view of the shops downstairs, and the interior of the pastry shop is almost Wes Anderson-like. The prices are different depending if you choose to stand up or sit down. And while I was here late at night, I recommend coming here early in the morning where they have the full selection of pastries. But seriously, there's just so much dessert that it's really hard to decide anything. And I don't know why, but at every place we went to in Milan, whenever I asked for a recommendation, they said, everything is good. But they weren't lying. We ordered an almond cake, mini cakes, butterfly pastries, and I got a hot chocolate with cream, and it was delicious. Something I love about my parents is that they have a very giving nature, and this really shows at mealtimes. We really enjoyed the almond tart, but by the time we got to the mini cakes, they were a little bit too rich for us. We also got some candied chestnuts for takeaway, and these are so good that I ended up buying a couple more boxes for friends. Overall, I would score the food a 3.5 out of 5 at Marchesi, depending on what you get. The value for money here, I would score a 2 out of 5, because I think you're paying more for the experience or the packaging of the boxes rather than the food. And finally, the experience is definitely a 5 out of 5. This little pastry shop sitting above the Prada boutique was just so cute. And there was a mix of tourists as well as some of the Milan local fashion crowd here, which makes it a really interesting place to sit and have a bite. It's time for our first full meal, and I can't believe we almost didn't come here. This was a last-minute visit after going to the thermal springs in Milan. And this place was so cool, I'm going to need to do another video on it. Pasta Madre was arguably one of the best pastas of the whole trip. And here, the locals outnumber the tourists. However, this is a really welcoming spot for all people. And this is reflected in the attitude of the staff and how friendly they are. There's a big focus on sustainability at Pasta Madre, and the ingredients are sourced seasonally. Not a lot of places do fresh bread in Italy, but at Pasta Madre, the bread is good. And when you get good bread in Italy, it's a sign of good times to come. We couldn't decide what to order, so the staff here let us have half serves, which means we had both the alla, which is breaded and fried anchovies, and also the bacala, which was the creamed cod. And both were really good, but the creamed cod just blew me away. And this was spread on top of the crispiest bread you can get. A lot of dishes come from Mediterranean origins, so it only seemed suitable that we got the torzella riccia, which is one of the oldest types of Mediterranean cabbage. It was a dark leafy green that was still quite sweet and topped with some salt flakes. And then the pastas that will ruin every other pasta for me for the rest of my life. We had the spaghetti con tartare di gambero, which was a pasta with yellow cherry tomatoes, stracciatella, and pink shrimp tartare. The dish looks like it could be really heavy and creamy, but it was actually really light. And although it packed a lot of flavor, it was still really fresh. And then we had their signature, which was pasta della saia, which had spaghetti, spring onion fondue, pecorino romano cream, and black olive tapenade. It was the first time having spring onion and olive as a combination for me, and the flavors worked beautifully together. Overall, the food here was an easy 5 out of 5. Pretty much every dish was a hit, with my favorites being the cream cod and both the pastas. In terms of value for money, I think it's very similar to prices back home, so I'd give this a 4 out of 5. With the prawn pasta being a bit more expensive at 22 euros. And in terms of experience, I also will give this a 5 out of 5. The staff are really friendly here, and you can tell that they take a lot of pride and joy in this restaurant. The only concern that I have is that I'll never enjoy pasta as much as I did here again. I am taking you to have another banger of a meal. Rettana is located in Milan's Asola district, which was originally a depot for Garibaldi railways, and the interior preserves this heritage with industrial elements and items of its past. This place is packed with locals with no tourists in sight, well, except for us. But it was quickly forgotten because a lot of the locals seem to come here for a chat, even if it is to the tourists next to them. The wine recommendations here were some of the best that we had in Italy as well. And my favorite was the buttafuoco. As the starters arrived, one of the locals leaned over to say, "Oh my god, this dish is amazing," pointing at the roasted beet tartare with trout eggs, orange and almonds. All of the other dishes were delicious as well, with my other favorite being the char-grilled cauliflower steak with chimichurri, black garlic and curry spiced cauliflower puree. We also decided to go over risotto, especially seeing as there were about 3 or 4 different risottos on the menu. We knew it had to be good. So we got the risotto alla vecchia Milano with bone marrow, gremolata and roast sauce. And wow, the risotto was so golden. And apparently this is because of the saffron that's been infused into it. We were getting really full, but we still finished all of this. The tortellino was also good, but it was a bit too sweet for my liking. For the food here, I would rate it a solid 4.5 out of 5, only because some dishes didn't quite hit like the others. And the value for money is probably around a 3.5 out of 5 because it was slightly more expensive here. The experience of dining here was also a 3.5 out of 5 for me, because it was a nice atmosphere, but it was a little bit crowded. However, I would come back because some of these dishes were just amazing. So after going to the Milan Duomo, I got sidetracked, and instead of going to the Campari bar, I accidentally went to the Aperol Spritz Rooftop. And let me tell you, I have no regrets, not even one letter. The interior is orange with bottles of Aperol everywhere, and even the balcony seating has umbrellas with orange lights underneath them, which I'm pretty sure is how I got sidetracked to go to Aperol instead of Campari. But still, we were all so happy to be there. I mean, just look how happy my mum is. The view is epic, and it literally looks like the Duomo's in your lap. And rest assured, we took a bunch of photos. The drinks are delicious, even if they're a bit more on the expensive side at 20 euros. But you do get a side of snacks every time you order a drink, and this is for every single drink that you order. There was so much food, in fact, that we decided to just eat at Aperol. If we were coming here just for drinks, I'd give this a 4 out of 5. But for food as well, I'd probably give it a 3 to a 3.5. And in terms of value for money, I think really what you're paying for here is the view. So if you're okay paying 20 euros for that, I'd say that's a 5 out of 5. And the experience is actually quite good here. I really enjoyed this place and I would give this a 4 out of 5. And now for the grand finale. Contrast a Michelin star spot where food meets performance art. If you can support me, please leave a like or subscribe to see more of my adventures. Everything they do here is all about the experience, which was exciting because this was also for my mum's birthday as well. When I made the booking, I could choose between riflesso or riflessioni, with riflesso being the more traditional version of the menu. And since this was the first time we were in Milan, I opted for the more traditional menu. The interior is very Art Nouveau, which complements how innovative the cuisine is as well. And there's both an elegance and a playfulness about the atmosphere, which is also reflected in things like their teacups. The first course was one of their signatures, the playdough dishes. And these are meant to evoke a feeling of nostalgia, especially when you get Play-Doh, which you may have played with when you were young. Each plate also evokes nostalgia about different moments in your life, but the answers aren't just given to you here, and you have to guess based off the shapes of the dishes or looking at the underside, which is in Italian. We had so much fun playing with the Play-Doh, and let me tell you, this is not the last you'll see of it during this video. And then the next course is a work of art, literally. This was such a stunning way to display the calamari miro, which is inspired by surrealist artist Joan Miro. And while I love the presentation of this dish, I think it was overall a little bit bland for me and could have done with a bit more flavour. The next dish, however, was the scallop noodles with parmesan and dashi, and this was delicious and had so much flavour. I especially love the texture of the noodles because it was made out of the scallops, giving it this bouncy yet firm texture. The mussels cacio e pepe was an interesting combination, and while this combination was maybe a little bit weird for me, I really liked the textures of the dish and the flavours separately. And then a couple of really amazing dishes. The Milanese risotto and ossobuco was really interesting because it was shaped like pasta, but it was supposed to be risotto. What I really liked about this was the sauce. It was literally so good that I was slurping all of it up at the end. And at this point, I was already getting really full. So when they brought out the donut, I was pretty satisfied when they said it was dessert time. But no, it was a bolognese donut, which meant the savories were still going strong. And then it was time for the magic. They pulled out a top hat to reveal rabbit kidneys inside. And honestly, I'm adventurous with my food, but this one was hard to eat. So I tried to down all of it as quickly as I could. The next couple of dishes were the meaty mains, which were the Iberian pork with burrata cheese and sea urchins, and also the grilled ox and bresaola of ox. And while these were decently tasty, I didn't like them as much as some of the other dishes that we had beforehand. But then they whipped out the red onion and goat cheese. And this wasn't just visually stunning, it was delicious. It was so fun to just crack it open with a spoon and start to eat all of the sugar shards along with the caramelized onion and liquidy goat's cheese. And it was just such an innovative way to present a red onion dish. I wish that I had gotten seconds of this dish, it was just so good. So in between all of these courses, we were playing with the Play-Doh the whole time because we were trying to make a rose for my mum. I felt like I did an okay job at it, and then she crushed it, and then my dad tried to make it as well, and then she crushed that. And then she really impressed us with how well she made a rose from the Play-Doh. But you know what? I'm not surprised. This woman knows how to throw clay. We could hardly contain our excitement when the dessert first came out because it was in this giant lockbox. And this box had a peephole where you could see some of the desserts and you could open it with a key. Inside there was a palate cleanser in the form of the liquid salad, tomato and vinegar. There was a strawberries, yogurt and cereal dessert, and also creme brulee of pastier. And then the final dessert on the menu, the Lego, with each block representing different types of chocolate. As a big fan of Lego, I was a bit sad to eat all of it, but also very excited by yet another playful dessert. Did I say that was the last dessert? Because it wasn't. We also had a rose cake and vanilla ice cream, which is a traditional ending to a very fun menu. This cake has origins in northern Italy and symbolizes prosperity and warmth. The staff there were really nice and offered to let me try cannelling as well, which is creating that perfect looking scoop of ice cream on your plate. And I failed miserably, but I did in fact get a giant scoop of ice cream as a result of this. The rose cake was really yum, with a crispy sugary coating on the outside and a soft, fluffy inside. And I felt it was the perfect way to finish our meal. The food here was hits and misses, with mostly hits, which is expected when there's so much innovation and playfulness. So for me, I would give this a 4 out of 5. We did end up spending around €200 per person, which is on the pricier side, so I would say this is probably a 3 out of 5. And finally, the experience here was incredible, and it is a solid 5 out of 5. They considered a lot of different things to try and make our night special, including surprising my mum with a candle at the very end as well. And I felt that the staff genuinely enjoyed seeing people happy. I had the most incredible time exploring the food in Milan, and I can't wait to come back here one day. Thank you for supporting me and watching this video all the way through. And if you have time, please leave a like to support me and subscribe to see more of my adventures. Ciao for now!
About pouring the tea, sorry.